Hello BookTube, my name is Darcy, I'm 22 and I'm from Melbourne, and this is my July wrap-up and August TBR. Our family's cat Rebecca has decided to join us. Do you want to meet her? This is her. Hello! First of all, I would like to make a quick mention and thank you to Jamie from Ermagern Books for mentioning me in her BookTube recommendations video. My subscribers have doubled, so hello to new subscribers, hello to old subscribers. Thank you for joining me today. Oh, it's so exciting, so sweet. How great is the BookTube community? It's just the nicest thing ever. Anyway, the first book that I read this month was the first 3 volumes of the Dragon Ball manga by Akira Toriyama, and I did not expect to enjoy this as much as I did, even though I watched so much Dragon Ball Z growing up. I knew bits and bobs of Dragon Ball, but this is hilarious. It was so funny. I'm a feminist, and so reading the perverted kind of sections, like the characters like Master Roshi viewing women as kind of just seeing their bodies, I did have a slight issue with. However, the manga kind of shows that that's not an ideal person and that's not an honourable trait to have, so that's how I've kind of justified it in my head. But it was so funny. There were times where I was laughing out loud on the train because it was so beautiful and so funny. I'll definitely be continuing on with Dragon Ball because I loved it so much. Then I read Rebel of the Sands by Alwyn Hamilton, and I really wanted to enjoy this book because the lead is a female, a woman of colour, which is incredible. Hooray for protagonists being people of colour, that's amazing. However, she was so selfish and I didn't like her at all. Oh my goodness. There has been a lot of love for this book, and I personally found that I didn't really enjoy what was happening. I didn't find it particularly interesting, and I've said it in every single one of my BookTube videos, but I love characters. I love characters, and I found her character descriptions and character development quite lacking. The lead character doesn't learn from her mistakes. She continues to make the same selfish mistakes. So she makes a selfish decision. There were repercussions because of that decision, and she continues to do that. And I'm fine with the character being selfish. Awesome. Sometimes it's very refreshing, especially for a female character to just be unashamedly selfish. However, she wasn't guilty about it. For those of you who have read this book, and if you completely disagree with me, please let me know, because I'd be really interested to see why someone would like the lead character. That's very harsh of me to say, but I think it's because when I was reading this book, I was listening to the audiobook of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, and Jo Rowling is just queen of characterization. I'm gonna give you an example. So this is her description of Ludo Bagman. He had the look of a powerfully built man gone slightly to seed. The robes were stretched tightly across a large belly he surely had not had in the days when he played Quidditch for England. His nose was squashed, but his round blue eyes, short blonde hair and rosy complexion made him look like a very overgrown schoolboy. Right? So from that I have, and you all now have, hope you enjoyed that, a really clear idea of what Ludo Bagman is, what he looks like, and even you can see him. I found that that is where Rebel of the Sands was lacking. I couldn't visualize any of the characters clearly. I also didn't buy the romance really. I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't for me. Yep. So after Rebel of the Sands, I read Flappers and Philosophers by F. Scott Fitzgerald. There's some alliteration, oh my goodness. And I loved this so much. I loved it so much. It's a collection of short stories that he's written, and majority of them I adored. The last 2 I kind of was a bit iffy about, but that's because they wasn't as romantic as the other ones, and I love F. Scott writing romance. I find him so sweet. F. Scott is also marvellous at characterization. I'm gonna give you an example. So this is describing the character Clark from the short story The Ice Palace. Clark was dark and lean, and when on foot was rather inclined to stoop. His eyes were ominous, and his expression somewhat petulant, except when startlingly illuminated by one of his frequent smiles. Right? Isn't it like, that's all you need? That's all you need when describing a character, and I go, oh yep, I have a vision of Clark in my head. I always find that I need to read F. Scott books at a much slower pace than I would read other books, and so I actually read this over the entirety of a week, and I was fine with that. I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it 4 or 5 stars, I don't remember. But if you are wondering whether if you want to get into F. Scott, I'm assuming all of you have read Great Gatsby, but if you haven't and you don't know where to start, I would actually kind of start with this one. I love this. I really, really loved it. Then I read the first book in volume 3 of the Ryuria Revelations by Michael J. Sullivan. The first book in this is called Wintertide, and I adored it. I adored it so much. I missed Hadrian and Royce so much, and Arista, The only thing I didn't enjoy about it is there was a character, Ulrich, who I felt took a step back from what he had developed within himself from the previous book, if that makes sense. However, it was great. These books are really lovely paced. You just feel like you're going along the journey with them, and it was marvelous. Another thing is Michael J. Sullivan writes women very well. They are equally as complex and unique and interesting as their male pals along the journey, and I loved it. As you can see, I'm reading the second book in this at the moment, and I'm loving it. I'm really, really loving it. Then I listened to the audiobook of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire by J.K. Rowling, read by Stephen Fry. I just thought I'd hold this up because it's my old copy and I love it so much. I just love holding Harry Potter. Although I found my sister, my younger sister, Alexis, I remember this one time when we were children, and she's 6 years younger than me. I think she would have been about maybe 4, so I must have been like 10 or something, and I went upstairs and I saw her and she had highlighters and she was just going over this book and I lost it. Like, look at this, look at what she's written. Alexis. So angry. Ugh. I found Goblet of Fire absolutely wonderful, absolutely wonderful. I think it's my second favourite. My favourite is Half-Blood Prince, but Goblet of Fire is so interesting. I love all the new characters. In particular, I find Barty Crouch Sr., that kind of listening to the audiobook kind of made me connect with him as a character, and I'd be really interested to know how you guys feel about the character of Barty Crouch Sr. and what goes down and the choices that he makes in order to protect his family and his son and his wife's wishes. It's interesting. Do you find him cruel? Do you just not sympathize with him at all? Or do you kind of get where he's coming from? That whole situation is so interesting. I think I'm going to make a character discussion on Barty Crouch Sr. because, yeah, all that whole like family thing that happens, oh, horrible, horrible. And I found it interesting to think about Draco in this book as well, because I could kind of forgive him being a bully in the first 3 years of Hogwarts. But now it's like, man, you're 14 years old and you just made fun of Cedric Diggory, who just passed away because Voldemort killed him. How do you guys feel about Draco? I find Draco, again, just one of those characters people either seem to really love him or really just not enjoy him, and they don't really forgive him, and they don't sympathize with the fact that he's just a product of his environment. But I'm kind of on the fence with Draco, because in this book I found him a jerk. I was like, oh, I do not enjoy you at all, and I am not even sympathizing with your position right now. Then I was going to read Peer Gynt by Henrik Ibsen. However, this came out and I read it twice. I read it physically, and then I read it aloud with a group of actors, theatre people, and it was wonderful. It was so, so good. I've been hearing and reading a lot of mixed thoughts about this, and I want to make a discussion video for this, kind of defending why I enjoy it so much. And I can understand the reasoning as to why people wouldn't enjoy this. However, I just disagree. If you're hesitant to pick this up, or you are going into this with low expectations, that's completely fine, but please do try to keep in mind that it's a play. But I adored it. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Scorpius. I won't spoil anything, but Scorpius. So this month I'm only assigning myself a short amount of books to read because I have quite a busy August ahead. I'm moving countries. I got an offer to live in Dubai for 9 months for work, so I'm doing that, which is like, whoa, it kind of hasn't hit me yet. Anyway, so the first book that I want to finish is the second half of Heir of Novron by Michael J. Sullivan. As I said, I'm really enjoying it. So it's book number 1. Then I want to get to volume 1 of Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. I was meaning to read this in July. I didn't get round to it. I thought I could read it on the tram, public transport. Then it was like, whoa, that's graphic. I'm not going to read this in public. So that's kind of my logic as to why I didn't read this book, but I know I'll get to it in August. Then I would like to read Shadow and Bone, which is book 1 of the Grisha trilogy by Leigh Bardugo, and I adored Six of Crows. People say that the Grisha trilogy isn't as good as Six of Crows. However, I love good characters, and Leigh Bardugo writes good characters, and I'm very excited for this. I'm very excited for this. Also, Sam from Thoughts on Tomes loves this, and I agree with pretty much everything she says ever. So, yeah. Then I want to get to The Silkworm by Robert Galbraith, aka J.K. Rowling, and this is the second book in the Cormoran Strike series. I loved the first one. I really, really loved it. I need more Jo Rowling in my life, always. I'm so excited. For those of you who don't know, this is an adult crime investigation kind of set of books, which I highly recommend. Even though I've only read the first one, I highly recommend the first one, and I'm positively sure this will be excellent as well. Last book I would like to get to is I Darkened by Kirsten White, and I've been seeing this everywhere on BookTube, and I read the first page. I was in a bookshop and I saw it and I read the first page and I went, yep, this needs to happen. So those are the books I read in the month of July and all the books I'm hoping to read in August. Please let me know the books that you've been reading and enjoying. Please let me know your thoughts on Barty Crouch Sr. because I'm just really interested in that at the moment. I want to make a video about it. Let me know what you thought of Cursed Child. Let me know about your life. Let me know bloody anything you bloody want. Thank you so much for watching. Have a lovely day.